What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the new Generation Gathering episode of Table for Three from Friday, dropping this past Friday, featuring Kane, Glenn Jacobs, who they refer to him as. No mask, obviously. I mean, both in the literal sense and the wrestling sense, I guess. Jerry Lawler and Bret Hart. What was funny about the timing of this episode, this was good stuff, and I assume, as I've said before, they filmed all these Table for Threes, the Bone Street crew, the women's one a couple months ago, the Steiner one a few weeks ago, and then this one. I assume they filmed them all at the same time, like not simultaneously, but like all over WrestleMania weekend, and now they're just rolling them out now many months later. The funny thing about this one and the timing of it was that there was a lot of Memphis talk in USWA, which is where they all kind of came from, and maybe not where they all met, but they all kind of go back to their USWA days. The funny thing about this episode is that we've heard a lot of Memphis talk in the last 2 weeks on Tales from the Territories, which Jerry Lawler was obviously a part of. He was on the first episode. I haven't watched the second episode yet, but obviously he was on that one because it's the Andy Kaufman episode. I think it's the same crew from the first one, though I'm not entirely sure. Regardless, we've seen a lot of Jerry Lawler lately, probably too much. Definitely too much. Between that show, this show, he's on the fucking SmackDown Lowdown as well, and Raw Talk sometimes. Way too much Jerry Lawler. But it made sense for him to be on this show along with Bret Hart and Kane, the former Isaac Yankem DDS. A lot of history between these three and the new generation of WWE. So like I said, Jerry Lawler brings up, they all go back to their USWA days. Kane mentions he had one of his first breaks in wrestling in Memphis. Jerry's son wanted to give Kane this gimmick to be the Christmas creature, which honestly I'd never fucking heard of before. Maybe they discussed this on the Broken Skull sessions and I missed it, but I didn't even know that. I wasn't aware of that gimmick, and I wasn't aware it was the thing until I saw the video of it here, and I wasn't aware there was footage of it, so I was glad they included that here in the episode. It was supposed to be a short-lived thing, being the Christmas creature after all, but it actually extended into January, so it went a little bit longer than he originally anticipated. Jerry Lawler mentions he loved his feud with Jimmy Hart, with Bret Hart, and because Jimmy Hart was on Tales from the Territory, so he's still on the mind. But Jerry Lawler, like I said, mentions that he loved his feud with Bret Hart from the early 90s, and he loved being the heel, and people backstage would go up to Jerry asking him, like, do you actually have heat with Bret because you're going after his parents, and it's kind of getting a little personal. And Jerry always thought that getting personal would draw more money, and Bret Hart agrees with that, though Owen would be bothered by some of the shots that Lawler was taking at Bret. And then I guess he got Bret worked up one time about it, which was funny. They talk about the Kiss My Foot match from many, many years ago and how fun that was. Bret Hart recalls just being beloved as a babyface at that point, and that was around the time the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, were getting over as like cool heels. So Jerry wanted to be the ultimate heel that people did not like and was not cheered. But yeah, just being as hated as he was, Lawler was very easy to work with, Bret Hart says. And it was actually in Memphis, which is where he learned how to get heat. That's what Bret Hart mentions as well. Jerry Lawler says that he talks about not washing his feet beforehand and stepping in cow manure and horse manure and whatever. I mean, they show those vignettes and shit, but it's like, no pun intended, when I said shit. But like, did he actually not wash his feet going into the match? Probably not. He said here that he didn't. Maybe he was joking. I don't know if he was talking kayfabe. I'm not sure. But he kind of made it sound like here. He kind of implied that was all real. And he needed his feet to be as stinky as possible for the fucking match, which is disgusting. Obviously, Bret Hart won that. And then afterward, he was being filmed backstage by the cameras. So he took a bunch of like random crackers he saw someone leave behind in the locker room and some diet soda and pretended to throw up. Vince was, of course, enamored by this and wanted him to do it probably more in the future because it looks so real. He's like, oh, I can't believe you managed to get yourself to throw up. And that's probably what they would do in the future when other people threw up, which is fucking disgusting. But anyway, that whole storyline, because of he was worried that he had mouth issues after kissing Bret Hart's feet, that he brought in Isaac Yankem DDS as his dentist. So from a storyline standpoint, it didn't make sense. The problem was the storyline was very fucking stupid and dumb. It was very dumb. Vince actually told Kane about the new name being called Isaac Yankem DDS, flew him all the way over, I think, to Connecticut or wherever, to tell him about this new gimmick, and obviously he wasn't excited about it. He would apply all the gross shit to his teeth himself to kind of make it look like, hey kids, if you don't brush your teeth, this is what happens to your mouth, and it was just fucking disgusting. Bret Hart was actually away filming a TV show called Lonesome Dove when Lonesome Dove, it's Dove, Lonesome Dove, when he found out about the character and Isaac Yankem being his next rival and whatever. They actually had a match on Raw, did Kane as Isaac Yankem DDS and Bret Hart. They had a match where Jerry Lawler was stuck in a shark cage, and Lawler recalls having his nose bleed. He had a nosebleed because I guess he picked his nose the wrong way or touched it the wrong way because he had a deviated septum or something years earlier. So if he would touch his nose in the wrong way, it would randomly just start bleeding just out of the ordinary, just out of the blue. And that happened during this match, and they showed the blood, and he was kind of incorporating it into the meltdown that he was having inside the shark cage, which was cool. And he mentions here that was kind of groundbreaking for WWE because at that point they had a no blood policy, and they started to show more blood after that, even though I don't know if they had blood prior to that point in WWE, but certainly after that, I guess they incorporated more blood in WWE and didn't shy away from showing it on WWE TV. Bret Hart mentions that he was very impressed with working with Kane in the ring. Kane joked that both Lawler and Hart survived working with him in the ring because Kane was very green back then, but Lawler helped him being in the ring with him. Bret Hart obviously is a fucking wrestling genius, so that helped a lot being in the ring with him early on in his career. But he was very happy about that, and he was very impressed with with the work that Kane was doing. Jerry Lawler said that he's always found being in the business fun. As they kind of wrap it up here, he mentions, being a wrestler is fun, being in the business is fun. Kane said that he kind of got that same feeling when he watched Taker come down to the ring for the WrestleMania 14 match in '98, his first major Mania match, his first biggest match, the biggest match of his career just in general up to that point. Bret also talks putting pressure on himself, and Kane also mentions that Bret Hart was very underrated as an entertainer throughout his career, and it really shined through when he was doing the heel stuff, probably in the late 90s is what he's talking about, and also during the Kiss My Foot match as well. He kind of allowed the sports entertainment aspect of himself to kind of shine through a little bit more than usual. But that was the New Generation Gathering edition of Table for Three. Good episode with Kane, Lawler, and Bret Hart. Certainly not the most newsworthy, but if you were a fan of that era, grew up in that era, you're probably going to like this one. It was a good episode regardless, and it clocks in at around 25 minutes, so it's not a long one at all. Very quick, fun stories, as always. Kind of like WWE's Tales from the Territories, although they've been doing the show a lot longer than Vice TV's been doing that one. So good stuff here. But thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And we'll be back soon with more videos here on the channel. So until then, guys, have an awesome one. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.